Hey everybody, no power again up here in the middle of nowhere, Michigan. It's a somewhat relatively regular occurrence. You can hear the generator going. And there's some things I want to talk about as far as like losing power and even losing the grid that you certainly need to know, because it seems to be something that we talk about a lot, because it is something that is coming. It's not a matter of question of if, but when. So stay through this. And again, I have some pointers for you that you don't want to miss. But anyways, I'm going to show you some of the things that are going on around here as far as what we do when we don't have power, like for example, for a generator, and the ramifications as such. But we had some major storms come through, and then, man, it slammed us. And this is the road right in front of our house. You can see some of the major trees that came down. And this is just the beginning. It's like this everywhere. So the first thing I recommend is you get a generator. This is our gas generator, and you can see it powers up to 10,000 watts, which is more than enough for our entire home. I suggest you have some kind of generator. Ours is gas. You can get a propane one. And for a situation like this, they work incredibly well, for at least for the short term. Now, you don't have to spend an arm and a leg. And I know people have like those really amazing Generac whole house generators. And I'm not saying no, but I want to talk about that in a minute. But in the meantime, look, you don't have to spend an arm and a leg to get some electricity in a generator. I got this at an estate auction, I think less than 500 bucks. Normally this generator sells for, I don't know, maybe around $1,000. So I got it for a fraction of the price. I'll show you in a second. There's more to it than that though, because you have to be able to provide power to the house. You know, get it from the electricity from the generator to the home. And then not a lot of people have the connections to make that happen. We do. We're preppers. I put that in. Now with this generator, I want you to understand that right now, if I shut the generator off, you didn't hear it going, you'd actually hear other people's generators going. Because we're living in a time, well, it's not crap hits the fan. It's peaceful times. We don't have power. Our neighbors don't have power, our neighbors don't power, and we don't have any neighbors really close by. But with this, understand that having generators going is a very regular occurrence. But understand, if crap hits the fan, for a few days people weren't using generators, but after that you're not going to hear them so much because it's going to draw attention. But at least for like short term, you know, if you actually have some power outages in your home, having this or a Generac, it's a Generac, right? Yeah, Generac whole house generators are great. They're fantastic. But for crap hits the fan, that may not be your best choice. So the first lesson I want you to understand is not simply just have a gas generator, but have, you know, a variety of ways to power your home. For a more long-term solution, we have these two Mango systems, which will provide 240 volts for our house. Now our gas generator, same thing, 240 volts. We have to have that because we have a really deep well pump, and 240 volts to draw the water from that deep well is necessary. So I actually have these two Mango systems with a junction box that sends it into a cable going into our home. Fantastic. And so that's what we did last night. We were out of power, I don't know, maybe around 5 o'clock yesterday. It started, and throughout the evening, and we realized, oh, this is really bad. We're gonna be out for a while. So the first thing what I did was I plugged in these Mangos into the house and gave us whole house power. We had power for everything, and enough. We all got showers and cleaned up, did everything we need to. When we got into the nighttime, however, I wanted to conserve that power. And that's actually one of the lessons I'm going to get to in a second, is power conservation. Hold on to that for a minute. And so we actually have enough smaller solar generators that we actually give them to each of the kids. Not necessarily for an air conditioner per se, because up here in Michigan, that's not a very common occurrence. We have to use AC, but at least for a fan and to charge their phones. And if they do have a window air conditioner, a lot of times it's enough to power that window air conditioner for a couple hours. So we handed out all the solar generators to everybody for their rooms. In fact, a couple of the kids decided to go ahead and camp out in the living room, which is fun, and we gave them a solar generator for that too, and off they went. I also modeled an It-to-Hill solar fan. My daughter got that out. She goes, "Dad, I love this thing." So she actually used that solar-powered fan to keep herself, you know how it is. I don't know about you, when I sleep, I like to have a nice cool breeze coming across. And so having all the solar generators, at least for the evening, we're good to go. This morning, I still had enough power on those Mangos to, for at least an hour, power the whole home, along with having the water pump so we can get showers. On top of that, I actually have two Bluettis that can also power the entire home, a little backup redundancy. And so for me, I have it so I can actually use the Mangos and power the home, not all the time, it's not about round the clock. And then the Bluettis can actually be on charge on solar, and then switch them out. I mean, granted, these systems, you can actually use solar and charge it while it's actually powering the home. It's called pass-through. It's a fantastic way to do it. But we have redundancy, and that's the whole thing about prepping too. And then your first major lesson, maybe the second lesson now, is you don't want to depend on just one system. Have a variety, have redundancy, And even in that case, we have like some chest freezers we want to keep going. We can get by without lights. We have flashlights and lanterns. We can get by without a fan going, even though it's kind of miserable. But having a freezer going for cold, food storage and preservations is absolutely essential. Not to mention for our home, we have a furnace, which I installed for the first time. We actually have heat where we can press a button and use it. You can hear the kids playing. We have a pool. They're outside keeping cool in the pool. And then we also have fans going for our wood stove. So if it were the winter time, we want to actually have the fans going to disperse that heat from the wood stove. So electricity is not so much a luxury anymore, but more of a necessity. All right, so let's talk about how we need to get the power from our generator or from the solar generators into our home. Let me show you the one from our gas generator first. So you can see we have an adapter plug that comes right from the generator, 240 volts, goes right up into our deck, goes across, and plugs right into this junction box that we have on the house. Now this junction box, I'll link it below. You're gonna have to have an electrician to put this in for you. And in fact, what you need is some kind of crossover, because if I actually have this plugged in my house and I'm powering the house right into my breaker panel, this is powering my entire breaker panel of the home, and for some reason I leave the main breaker on for the power to come into the house, then suddenly that power is restored and we have power from both. Sparks, fire, mayhem. Definitely bad news. So having a crossover is actually really smart. I have it set up on my breaker panel so I can make it more foolproof. You can talk to your electrician about having it done the way you want to have it done. But this is the easiest configuration right here, by the way. Just get this massive cable, which weighs a ton, and plug it into the house and off it goes. Now, when I look at the solar generators, I still use the same cable, but I have an adapter that I use that makes it so it sets it up to the house as well, and again, goes into the breaker panel. But you're gonna have to have that kind of configuration. Again, if you have like a Generac, one of those major whole house systems, they set that up for you. It has an automatic transfer, which is sweet. But I'm all about thriftiness and saving money, and the most important lesson I'll get to in a minute, why that simply may not be the way you wanna go. But you need to think about more serious considerations. If the grid goes down, we're not talking about like, to right now we have these storms coming through, but if a major thing, the grid goes down, not having electricity is not gonna be your major problem. We're talking about violence and mayhem. We've talked about that many times on the channel, that this is what's gonna happen. Mankind's gonna go after mankind. It's a really bad situation. But let's pretend that doesn't even happen. Because in our house, since we actually have a wood stove that heats everything, well, you know what? We've been processing our wood. You can see here we've been splitting it, and we've been stacking it, and getting it ready for this winter. But guess what? Our wood splitter requires gas. Our gas generator requires gas. Your propane generator requires propane. And if we're talking about a whole grid down situation, that's not gonna be available to you anymore. It's gonna be gone. Something to seriously consider. All right, so what's that mean? I have our Mango systems, I have our Bluetti systems that can power the whole home. And we also have it so the whole house generator, Generac system may not be the way to go. And here's why. Here's the moral of the whole story. You need to realize that if we're talking about a crap hits the fan situation, you need to stop thinking that you're going to live this life of luxury and everything's happy, like my generator system will take care of me and I'm gonna have enough power for everything, including your air conditioner. Those days will be gone. The days of splitting wood using a log splitter are gone. I'm not even talking about the violence, but if gas is gone, so is your generator, so is your log splitter. Propane's gone, it's not gonna power your house anymore. So I do have our backup solar generators. Does that put us in the lap of luxury? Not even close. We're gonna have to literally set up allowances of electricity every single day. And I'm not talking about somebody who speculates. We're living it right now. Using these really high-tech and sometimes expensive systems requires a lot of time and patience and setting up ahead of time. Do you have that set up? I hope so. But even if you do, my Mango systems, which are, in my opinion, top-notch, will run our water pump and keep our house powered for electricity for 2 hours. Just 2 hours. And then I have my Bluettis, probably 2 more hours the next day. My point being is this. I have a lot of people say, I have a Generac system, they love it. And granted, I'm not knocking that, that's great. For having just power out for a couple days, a few days, fantastic. But if we're talking about crap hits the fan, if we're talking about a major blackout, which right now experts are agreeing it's a very real possibility, that Generac or even my own gas generator is not going to do much for me. Go ahead and store up some gas and propane. But people will come because they hear the noise. But on top of that, there's only so much gas and propane. We're talking about years with the system being down, and that's the important part you understand. You need to understand this. And so now I actually have my solar generators to power my home and keep the solar going, even here in Michigan, by the way. When they tell you the solar is not here, it's not going to be able to keep it going, that's a lie. They don't know what they're talking about. Solar is easily enough. The sun's easy enough to keep my solar systems going. But even then, we're only talking about a couple hours a day. We're going to be in a lifestyle of, okay, hey guys, you know what? 5 o'clock's coming around. Everybody get ready to go quick, get their showers, fill up all the water basins. We have about 2 hours, ready, go. And then we're going to have to use that 2 hours, and it takes time for it to build up as far as recharging those systems again. The moral of the story is this: you need to be fluid. You need to be dynamic. You need to be adaptable. You need to be versatile. And if you ever find yourself answering a question like, oh, it's no problem, I have fill in the blank, a gas generator, a Generac, I have this, then you're looking at this the wrong way. Because when we talk about crap hitting the fan, there will be no recipe card and saying, oh, if this happens, I'll do this. You need to be adaptable. You need to train and drill. And again, we're not talking about necessarily just the violence. We're talking about literally just keeping power to your home. So guys, don't think for a second that you can go through a life living in the lap of luxury anymore. When this happens, it's not a matter of if, but when this happens, you need to be adaptable and have as many contingency plans as possible. Put in the comments below, what are some contingency plans you've already thought of? And I hope this is kind of a wake-up call, because if you haven't thought of any contingency plans, you're going to be in big trouble. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.